After a rare week without a midweek fixture, Rovers return to the Keepmoat Stadium to take on Gillingham in Sky Bet League One. Darren Moore's side have lost just one of their last 6 league matches, while this afternoon's opponents are unbeaten since the end of October. It's Doncaster Rovers against Gillingham from 3 p.m. Good afternoon and welcome back to the Keepmoat Stadium, and thank you for joining us for our pre-match build-up ahead of the game against Gillingham in Sky Bet League One. Joining me once again, Doncaster Rovers reporter for the Free Press, Liam Hoden, and host of the 18 Dapper fan channel on YouTube, Dan Pearson. Dan, your hat-trick appearance on the show, but there's only one place to start really. Your social media account's taken a bit of a hammering over the last few weeks. Just explain to anyone who hasn't seen that.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a hammering. If we'd have not scored against Sunderland, I'd be saying right now we could still be playing and we wouldn't score. 91st minute, I put out an ill-timed tweet saying that if we get an equaliser out of this, I'll run around the Keepmoat naked. 2 minutes later, a great turn by Brad. Played it into Fajiri and he did everything he could to miss it. I wish he had, but it went in. We got the equaliser and then everything blew up. So I got told get the kit off and stuff, and it's gathered a bit of momentum, a bit too much.
See, obviously you're delighted that Rovers have got a point from that game, but
yeah.
But what was your overriding emotion, thinking about what was to come?
Oh no, what have I done? Said to the missus straight away, I've put my foot in it here, and she just said, you make your bed, you've got to lie in it. So this is what we're doing. I'm playing for Doncaster Rovers in the charity game against Sheffield Wednesday, and it just made sense to try and link those together to try and get a bit of money for Eve's Trust. And it's done well. £330 raised since Sunderland. In
fairness, Liam, having been at that game, it didn't look for much of it like Rovers were going to get back into it. So I think Dan was probably safe for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think any of us really expected an equaliser to come. But yeah, you've always got to be careful what you say.
Looking back then on the field matters. Rovers 3 points at Northampton last week, a game that played into their hands following the early red card for McWilliams, but it was a mature display, wasn't it?
I think it was, and I think we saw signs of that even before the red card, that they were taking control. It was always likely that they were going to be asked to take possession and try and break Northampton down, who were a side that looked to catch Rovers on the break, and they were starting to do that before the sending off, and from their fully professional performance did what they needed to do, controlled the game and ran out deserving winners.
Dan, were you impressed with the overall performance? It could have been more, of course, Ben Whiteman having his penalty save, but it was one of those where get out of there, get the job done and get back on the bus.
Yeah, I think Liam hit the nail on the head. Really professional performance. When you play against 10 men, sometimes it's a bit more difficult than playing against 11. They tend to sit in, make it difficult to break down, but I think we did a really good job. Professional, and like I say, got the job done and got out of there with the 3 points.
On to this one, Liam. Gillingham, of course, Steve Evans, former Rotherham and Leeds manager. Another tough one given their form so far.
Very tough, and it's going to be a similar test, I think, in terms of Rovers are going to get the majority of possession, and we're looking into Gillingham's possession stats. 33% possession average over the last 5 games, dropped down to 26% when they won at Crewe. So I think Rovers are going to see a lot of the ball. They're going to have to be patient with it as they were last week, because Gillingham have shown in that run 4 wins out of 5 that they don't need possession to win football matches, and they take the chances when they come. So it's going to need to be professional again from Rovers.
After being up against 10 men for much of the game against Northampton last weekend, Rovers did get the job done, 2 goals and 3 points in the bag, and here are the best bits from that one. Comfortable victory in the end for Rovers and Liam. John Jules with a goal at one end, but it was a man at the other end of the field in Andy Butler who took a lot of the plaudits.
And deservedly so. Amazing, really, given that was his first league appearance since his comeback in the summer. First league appearance for Rovers in 18 months, and it didn't look like he'd missed a beat. Seamless slotting in alongside Tom Anderson. A really good performance. Everything that we came to expect from Andy Butler when he was here before, and deserves a tremendous amount of credit.
And another example, probably the biggest this season so far, that it is all about horses for courses where Darren Moore's concerned, and obviously expecting the opposition to go long, and it suited Andy Butler. It
certainly did. I mean, I know there were a lot of eyebrows raised with the selection and who was playing where, particularly Joe Wright again at right back, but we saw that work earlier on in the season against Lincoln, and I think the unfortunate thing we didn't see how it were going to pan out against 11 men, although you'd always take that advantage, but it made a lot of sense, and Andy Butler sort of did the job that he was asked to do.
Dan, pleased to see John Jules get another goal, his first start for a good few weeks, backing up his finish against Hull a few days earlier.
Yeah, big difference he's added to the squad coming back. I think we've got more chance of seeing the ball hit the back of the net. I like Okenabiri up top. I think he's strong, holds the ball up well. I'd love to see somebody playing off him like John Jules to give him a little bit more support. I think Okenabiri sometimes looks a little isolated, and John Jules gives us that other dimension to kind of get in behind the defence, which is done.
Did it show just how much confidence he's got for a young lad as well, the way he sat the goalkeeper down and just lifted it over the top of it?
Fantastic finish. Yeah, fantastic. And for his age, like you say, bags of confidence, and he knows he's got the ability to do that.
It's not a bad option for Darren Moore to have now, is it, now that he's back fit? Okenabiri, obviously, he's been on the bench on Saturday, but with so many games coming up over the Christmas period, you wouldn't be surprised to see those two alternating as the weeks go by.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody can predict the team lineup at the minute, which is good. It keeps the opposition guessing, but it also keeps us as fans and you guys guessing as pundits as well. So yeah, definitely there'll be the rotation coming up to Christmas.
I think we were all a little bit surprised last week, Liam, to see Brad Halliday out on the right wing. Maybe less surprised than we were against Lincoln that Joe was at right back, but it just shows, as Dan said there, that if we're all guessing and we watch Rovers every week, the opposition aren't going to have a clue at times.
We saw that bit of cheekiness before the Lincoln game where they warmed up with Joe Wright in the centre just to catch people off guard, and then he played at right back. It's difficult, and the thing is, Brad Halliday spends so much of his time in that position anyway. You can see why Darren Moore went for it. It makes sense he can play in that position, and it causes a lot of problems to opposition teams from that high up. But the versatility in the side is fantastic, and as you say, it keeps everybody guessing what's going to be out there. And
it also means that if you do get a goal up in a game, you can shore it up maybe earlier than you would have done with less defenders on the pitch.
Definitely. We know the players get a big part of the wide players is getting back to cover, and Brad Halliday will certainly do that. You can guarantee that with there. So, just all round, it makes a lot of sense.
We mentioned earlier on that Rovers have lost just one of their last 6 league outings, and Darren Moore's been really impressed with his side's application, particularly over the last few weeks.
It's now just 1 defeat in 6, and that was against the league leaders. How happy are you with how competitive your side is being right now in League One?
Yes, Adam, it is. And, when we looked at the league leaders and losing that game, we wasn't very happy with that game because I didn't really felt we showed a real true account of ourselves really in terms of it. And we still felt we could have maybe come away with something. So it's just about approaching each game singly and just keep working from within and trying to be hard to beat and causing the opposition 1 or 2 problems in terms of how we go about the game really. So, it's that record's there. We keep going. We're on to our next one on Saturday. We know it's going to be a real difficult game. Gillingham's always a tough game. Really experienced manager. They too are in good form, real good form, and we know it's going to be another tough game. But they've got a real experienced manager there that knows his way around this league, and they've got players there as well that are more than capable at the level that we're at, really, which have been showing in recent weeks. So at the moment, I would imagine confidence is really sky high, and why wouldn't it be after those recent run of results? After what they probably thought was a relatively poor start, they've managed to find their feet really, and they've got some wonderful players, some real dangerous players. And as I said, for us, in terms of looking at the game, we know it's a dangerous game in terms of Saturday because of the quality that they have within their ranks. and the form that they're on and the mindset in terms of their confidence will be sky high. The players taking the knee, the players showing the fist in that it's a stand against racial inequalities, and it's nothing to do with anything political. And it's so I can't be no clearer than that. Dharmesh, I've spoken to the players, and every single one of them, and I speak to players every single day, every single one of them is all about standing against racial issues and racial inequalities, not just in the game of football, right across the world. And that football is just used as a platform to show their support in it. And me as a manager, I support the players. We support the players in terms of this. And if they change the stance to something different, then I'll support that in terms of it, because we want to see that equality right across.
One defeat in 6 then, Dan, that coming at the league leaders Hull last week. What have you made to it, the performances in the league last few weeks or so?
I think we're starting to get a little bit of consistency now. We're starting to see the players going in the right direction. Like say, one defeat in 6 and it came to the league leaders. I don't think we deserved anything out of that game on the night. But yeah, there's a lot of games coming up towards Christmas, and they're against teams that on paper we should be looking to beat if we're wanting to be in the top 6 come the end of the season. So that consistency is key coming into this, and like we said earlier, the rotation is going to have a big impact on that, making sure that the players are fit and fresh and good to go.
Was one positive, if you can take positives out of losing a game, that despite not being at the best against Hull, it was still very nearly a good point earned on the road? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Hull have put a lot of teams to the sword in League One, and I don't think we looked overawed by the occasion or the team that we came up against. And we were kind of unlucky not to come away with a point, but I think on the balance of things, Hull deserved the win, in my opinion. It was
obviously a quick response in the Northampton game from that Hull defeat, but in the main, Liam, the performances have started to improve, haven't they? After a bit of maybe the Sunderland and Blackpool first half in particular, a little bit sloppy, a little bit lacklustre, they've certainly stepped it up since then.
I think they're getting better at figuring out how to sort of worm the way into games, and a lot of that's been in the midfield. We've seen so many teams, and it seems to be every week now that a team will specifically target Ben Whiteman. Last week, the Northampton, before they went down to 11 men, had one on Ben Whiteman, one on Reece James, and it's about figuring out, and other players figuring out what they need to do to find that space and get Rovers moving forward. And I think we're seeing more of that as the weeks are going on.
Now, Rovers scored 14 goals in the month of November, and here are the contenders for the club's Goal of the Month competition. cracking goals there then, but the winner with 57% of the vote was Reece James' strike against Blackpool in the middle of November. And gents, for a defender, it was a really good finish, wasn't it?
Really good finish, really good balling from Taylor Richards. You can't really, I don't think any player in that position could ask for more. But the great thing, Reece James pointing where he wanted it, and the ball was played into there, and a beautiful little deft flick to score that goal. A great goal.
14 goals in the month, as we mentioned, and that's a decent return, isn't it? I know a couple came in the Cup, 5 at FC United and Manchester, but it shows that as well as that, they're getting goals from all over the team still.
Yeah, there's no out-and-out top goal scorer for us at the minute, so it's good to see goals contributions coming from everywhere. But for me, the defence is making that work as well. We're not conceding many, so the fact that we're getting up there and scoring as well, we're going to win more than we lose this season. Is
that one positive? We've mentioned so often the defence and how tight it is, and even when there's been sort of people brought in and taken out, it still looks as assured, doesn't it? It's not like people you're bringing in are making you weaker.
No, not all. Everybody's really contributed to that. And what's impressed me is they've done well against whatever type of threat has been posed against them. They were direct last week. It were direct at Carlisle in the Cup. But then you've got players running at you as well. And they're dealing with everything that is thrown at them, which is massive. You know, they're not suited to anything. They can do a bit of everything.
Ben's now got 7 goals to his name. Could have been 8, of course. I think first thing he said when he came out of the dressing room last week was to me, and was it a good save or a bad penalty? I think it was a good save. He's probably read him. I think his last 2 penalties have gone to that side. But 7 goals already, that's equalled his best tally in a Rovers shirt for a season. What do you put that down to?
He's developing all the time as a player. He's getting more and more intelligent with what he does out on the pitch, and I think a big part of that is he spends so much time deep, but he knows when to come forward and when to pick up them pockets of space. And a lot of teams are concentrating on what he does in his own half when he drops deep and tries to dictate possession and dictate the play. They're forgetting about him, as we saw at Carlisle with those 2 goals they scored there. They're forgetting about what a threat he is in the final third, and he's popping up in those spaces and really taking advantage of it.
If he could get up to double figures, Dan, it takes a lot of pressure off the strikers as well, doesn't it, in front of it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think having Reece James next to him gives him kind of that confidence that somebody defensively minded is there to cover, so he's got that bit more freedom to get forward and have a crack. And if you're getting double figures from a midfielder, you're onto a good season. We
know he can do it as well, don't we? The 2 against Carlisle in particular, different in the build-up, but very similar sort of trademark Whiteman instep into the corner. There's no saving them. Yeah,
he goes for accuracy over power, and 9 times out of 10 it finds its target, which is always nice.
And I think it's helped him as well, Liam. Would you agree that Taylor Richards and Matt Smith are both capable of dropping him when he does go forward?
That's been a big thing about Rovers, that sort of flexibility in midfield, that rotation between the players. Everybody knows what each other's doing and what to do in each other's positions, and it has been massive.
Somebody, of course, who's been massive for Rovers this season, Tom Anderson. He's one of 3 ever presents in the team so far this campaign, and he's looking forward to continuing that run over a busy Christmas period.
Staying fit and playing each game is what we all want to do, and it's, I'm enjoying it, but we've got to keep it going. And like I said earlier, if we can get a run going now, it's the perfect time. First and foremost on the pitch to defend, and then when we do that, we've got to be good and calm and cool on the ball. And I think, like I said, we're all very similar. And like I said, we all play well together. We've known each other for a while now. Obviously, Butts and Joel were together before I came, but I've been here now, I think, for almost 3 years, if I include my loan. So, we all get on well. We all know each other's game well, and we all play well together. Gillingham, good side, good at what they do. We'll have to make sure we match them and do the horrible side of the game, as people say. With headers and tackles and energy, we're going to have to match them with that. And then when we're on the ball, we show them what we can do. It's important to switch on. You can never switch off in a game, because that's when it'll cost you. And like I said, the importance of switching on and staying, in with things and switching on with it all, it is massive. Like as a defender, you can never switch off, especially if the ball's out of play. If anything, you switch on even more, and you're organising and you're getting people in positions. And we'll have to be very good at that on Saturday.
Almost 3 years, Liam, since Tom Anderson first came to Rovers, initially on loan from Burnley. Just how much has he matured, both on and off the pitch? I think even in his interviews, he seems a lot more comfortable within himself now.
Yeah, he's really settled here. This is home for Tom Anderson, and for a long time he was searching for a home. You know, he had a lot of loan spells out of Burnley, sorry, not Birmingham, but he's found that, and he didn't initially have it here. He was in and out of the team. He was more the backup player, the player that dropped into the team when somebody else were missing, but would probably drop out after. But since he's had these starts, he's never looked back, and he's got to be up there with one of the best in the division now.
Are you surprised, Dan, by just how good he's become after obviously the first few months of the Rovers player? A lot of people saw him as well as a head-it and kick-it defender, but he's got a lot more to his game than that.
Yeah, that's what surprised me, his ability on the ball. I thought it was going to be a bit like a Rob Jones kind of player, like you say, just there to clear the long balls, but it shows that he's comfortable with the ball at his feet. He can play out from the back, and Darren Moore plays that style of play where he wants to build up patiently, and Tom fits that bill really, really well.
He got his new deal last season, Liam, similar to the time when Ben Whiteman signed his, and that was really important, wasn't it, to tie down the core of this team for the foreseeable future?
Definitely, and it's been amazing that there hasn't been more talk of teams showing interest in him, because he's been that good and shown all the different sides of his game, but the longer he's here, the better.
On to Gillingham then. Of course, we mentioned earlier on they're on a good run. Steve Evans' teams, of course, you'll have plenty of colleagues, Liam, who've watched his teams down the years. What can we expect from Gillingham this afternoon?
They're going to be relentless in your face, you know, at it in the style of the manager, you know, robust, physical, direct, and as we know that they don't want a lot of the ball, but they can certainly strike and hurt you when they do get hold of it.
Dan, you sense it could be a bit of a frustrating watch at times today, and Rovers will have to be patient to get the job done. Yeah,
I think Gillingham are going to be difficult to break down. Like Liam's just said, they're going to be in your face. They're going to be very, very difficult to play against. They're going to have Steve Evans in the dugout shouting and bawling like he normally does, so it's not just going to be on the pitch where it's going to be difficult. I think there's going to be a few games played on the touchline as well, so hopefully we can overcome that.
How important is it that Rovers players don't get caught into that? You sense that it'll be the wingers that hear the most of his antics down here, but him and Darren Moore are very different characters, aren't they, about how they go about their business?
Yeah, Darren's very excitable in the technical area, very vocal, but in a completely different way to Steve Evans. We saw at Gillingham when Fayok and Abiri got sent off, possibly the worst place you could have done what he did was right in front of the Gillingham bench. Even if there were any question about it, Gillingham will certainly think that they've got the answers, and they were certainly did on that day, and I think that played a big part in facing the red card.
Predictions then, gents. Dan, how do you see it going?
I'd say very, very tight, but I think we've got enough. Third time I've been on the show, I've had a draw and a defeat, so I'm going with a 2-1 win to the Rovers.
Liam, how do you see it playing out?
I'm going to say the same, 2-1.
Liam, Dan, thank you for your company. Thank you to our match sponsors, Doncaster Pride, as well. And thank you at home for watching. Head over to iFollow Rovers now. Full live and exclusive commentary. The game against Gillingham. It's Rovers against Gillingham from 3 p.m.
Sport brings us all together.
It's part of our national fabric.
And at the heart of our community.
We celebrate and commiserate as one.
People of all orientations and gender identities are part of our game.
Sport is what brings us together.
When times are hard, we continue to support each other.
Club Doncaster are proud to support Rainbow Laces.
Because everyone is welcome here.
Whether you're lesbian, gay, bi, trans or straight,
we're all part of what makes football and rugby special.
Everyone must feel safe and included.
In our stadium, online and in our community.
And make sport everyone's game.